Welcome, everyone, to the Zoning Board of Adjustment September 20th meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order at exactly 7:01. Pardon our tardiness. For those of you that choose to, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I have a roll call? Hardikoff present?
Thibodeau present.
Hawkins present. Samato present.
Thank you all. Also present are our staff members, Town Planner Vanessa and our Zoning Administrator John Hawkins. Our first action item is case 250-39-NR-23, a special exception filed by Lauren N. Valier and, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Zachary Tucker, request by the applicant for a special exception from Article 4, Section 4.1.2 lot frontage to allow the access to a proposed lot 39-1, which I assume is a back lot?
Yes.
Okay. From 190 Beauty Hill Road, that would be within the proposed 30-foot wide common driveway easement in the neighborhood residential zoning district being presented by Joel Reynolds of Norway Plains Associates from Rochester, New Hampshire. Hi, good to meet you.
Thank you very much for doing
Can you just make sure the button's on?
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you very much for doing what you do. I appreciate it. Being a resident of Barrington and also being on the planning board myself for a long time, that I know what you guys have to go through. So thank you very much. I'm not trying to buddy you guys up either.
I felt
So I'm here to represent the owners that they're not here. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to subdivide their property. They have 12 acres of land and we're doing a subdivision of trying to create the house lot. It's going to be 2 acres and the remaining land is going to be 10 acres. We're doing a back lot subdivision. It seems to be a pretty modest request to try to subdivide the 12 acres into just 2 lots. So, but because of the way the lot was developed, being a long, we call them bowl and alley lots, a long skinny lot, doesn't have a lot of frontage versus the amount of acreage it has. So we're using the back lot subdivision regulations to create the lot 39-1. When we started the project, we had one of the requirements was to do wetland mapping. And when we had the wetland mapped, we found that there was a pocket of wetlands up in the front here where the neck of the back lot's going to be.
Can you trace for me first the 2 lots and then where the driveway is going? Okay. Okay. So the neck can't go over the wetlands. I understand that. So, okay. And can you show me where the driveway to the back lot would go? No, all the way through to where a house would go. Thank you. And what's the thickness of that neck? Okay, thank you. Okay.
By the town's regulations, you could have 2 lots at 50.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm glad I wrote this down then. Rather than trying to get a wetland crossing for the access to the back lot, we are requesting a special exception to allow us to have access other than on the frontage of the proposed lot and to use a proposed driveway easement that will share the existing driveway. So the existing house already has a driveway. The access is going to be, the easement's going to be at the beginning of that driveway on Beauty Hill Road, and it will cut across into, and what we're trying to do is, what we've done is that this is the edge of this easement is also staying out of the wetland buffer as well. So our proposal is having a driveway easement that would not impact the wetlands that way. So that's why we're here for a special acceptance to allow us to have access not at a frontage.
Can you cover the 5 criteria for a special exception? I've got to interrupt you. I actually failed in my duties as chairperson. You have a seated board with 4 members here. Are you willing to hear? You need a 3-person approval or declination of this case. Would you like to wait another month or 2? Or would you like to have the case heard before a body of 4?
Wish they were here so they could make that decision.
Well, they have provided you with written notice to make that decision, so,
There is
I-
no
I think I'm
fifth
gonna-
member, Miss- sorry.
yeah, there is
We
no
don't
5th
know when
member.
we'll have a fifth member.
I'm going to say we'll proceed.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
So if you could go over the 5 criteria, and then I'll open it up to public.
You want me to read the whole
I would.
thing? No detriment to property values in the vicinity of the proposed development result on account of the location or scale of buildings, structures, parking areas, or other access ways. The emission of odors, smoke, gas, dust, noise, glare, heat, vibration, or other pollutants, or unsightly outdoor storage of equipment, vehicles, or other materials. So, the proposed common driveway easement will be on the owner's property and will not affect any abutting properties. Common driveway will use the existing driveway on Beauty Hill Road and not require additional construction within the town's right-of-way. Placement of the easement will be outside the wetland buffers so as not to disturb said wetlands.
Next criteria. Go ahead.
No hazard will be caused to the public or adjacent property on account of potential fire, explosion, or release of toxic materials. The normal driveway construction material will be used for the proposed driveway. Number 3, no creation of a traffic safety hazard or substantial traffic congestion result in the vicinity of the proposed development. The existing driveway entrance on lot 39 will be used and will not require additional construction within the town's right-of-way. I'll add also that wouldn't be an additional driveway cut either this way too, so. It will keep that one single driveway. Number 4, no excessive demand on municipal services and facilities, including but not limited to waste disposal, police and fire protection, and schools. The existing driveway entrance on lot 39 will be used and will not require additional construction within the town's right-of-way. Same reason. Number 5, the proposed use will not result in the degradation of existing surface and groundwater quality standards, nor will it have adverse effects on the natural functions of wetlands on the site that would result in loss of significant habitat or flood control protection. Placement of the easement will be outside the wetland buffer so as not to disturb said wetlands.
I'm going to ask staff, can you explain why it's a special exception and not a variance from,
Because it's a use, it's not. Special exception is because coming in on location.
Hmm.
That's what we went through before. The attorney that came before me.
Can I say something? So in your regulations about frontage and access, it says right in there that you could have access at a different point with a special exception. It says, spells it out.
okay,
The process to do that.
thank you. Public comment before we ask questions? Questions, concerns, comments in reference to the special exception case? No. On the map, can you show me, there's 2 things I'm interested in seeing. Where is the fence that is currently in place along the driveway area for parking trailers? Where is that fence existing? Oh, I'm sorry. And since no response and no one online, we'll close public comment. Can you show me where The fence,
There's a privacy fence that's part of this. They're going to have to go back to the planning board to get revised site review requirement, approval for it, so.
because there's currently a fence there and
They're
It's
gonna have to
required
take,
to
they're
be
gonna
there.
have to take all the display area and everything. I've talked to John about what needs to be done. They're gonna concentrate it onto the lot, 2 acre lot. And that, all that's gonna have to be visually buffered as well. Realize that, and that's gonna be the next step after we go to the zoning board, go to the planning board for a site review.
And if the zoning board were to approve this, it's my understanding that the driveway that is shared would also be the driveway to a business?
Yeah, it's part of the home business.
Just the entrance part.
And that's where semi-trucks back in to drop off items?
I don't know that, I'm, again, it was the owners are here.
That's all existing.
Yeah, their site review required. They went to site review approval a couple of years ago,
Okay,
I think 2016.
I don't
believe.
see anything about a fence. I'm trying to,
The original site review required it, that, well, because of the home business that
Oh.
was approved a few years ago.
okay, I don't know about that.
We had to put some buffers, we had to put some trees for buffer, site.
It could be a visual buffer is what it said, so it didn't necessarily have to be a fence, they had options.
But I'm gonna move all that part of the site for going back to the planning board for the planning board, is that fence that was, we had a site, we had a fence over here, so
okay.
So the fence is still there, Joe?
I believe so.
But the
lot-
new site review is gonna be concentrated to the 2 acre lot now and not the whole lot like it was before.
So on one side of this, there's another 8 acre skinny lot and then 3 other 10, 11, almost 12 acre skinny long lots along there.
Yes.
Okay.
I like the idea of the reduced curb cuts, not putting another curb cut. Last thing Beauty Hill Road needs.
And we don't have to apply for wetland permit to disturb those wetlands.
Yeah, that's great.
If this got denied and he went to DES hands would be handcuffed and they would almost have to give him that crossing. And once he got the DES crossing, he's exempt from the wetland buffers because of the crossing by the way our regulations are written.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is directly across from Hall Road, the entrance to this property, correct?
Not directly, no.
I'm just,
Slightly down, slightly
Okay.
towards 125.
okay.
So
So,
between 50 and 100 feet difference, I would think.
okay,
You see it starting to turn up here?
Yeah. Right there on his
I see
plan,
that.
right here is where. it
Okay.
turns in.
so if a truck is backing into that property, it's not interfering with traffic coming off of Hall Road? It's a busy road, I'm asking for the neighborhood's convenience more
Beauty
than
Hill Road.
anything.
but that's
Okay.
already existing.
That would be addressed by the planning board as
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
the site review.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns by members of the ZBA?
I don't have any questions.
And would anyone like to make a motion in reference to the special exception?
I'll make a motion that we grant it.
Okay.
And, because, I clearly see the hardship with the wetlands, and they're allowed a back lot, and I like the idea of them using the existing driveway. I think we should do that on more of them, rather than put in a separate road. These curb cuts have gotta be minimum.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Huckins, aye.
Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Special exception passes.
Thank you,
Yay. Congratulations, Joel.
thank you.
You're still up there though, right?
I'm still here.
You're still there.
Next one.
Second section.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm still Joel.
Yep, next case before us is, hi Joel, is 250-39-NR-23, a variance for Lauren Valier and Zachary Tucker Request by the applicant for a variance from Article 4, Section 4.1.1.1, Table 2, to allow a front setback of 19 feet where 40 feet are required at Beauty Hill Road, map 250, lot 39, in the neighborhood residential zoning district. And presenting the case is Joel Runnels from Norway Plain Associates of Rochester, New Hampshire.
So we're here for a variance, requesting a variance from the front setback to the proposed driveway easement. Code enforcement officer, he and I have spoken quite a bit about this. He believes that the proposed driveway easement requires the standard 40-foot front setback. This easement, where we put it, because we're trying to get it, we're off using the wetland buffer, the existing wetland buffer in the existing house. It ends up being 19 feet from the edge of the easement to the existing house.
Can you illustrate that on the plan?
Yep.
And there's no way for it, yeah. The building what?
This building out here.
Okay. 19 feet from that's a new building, correct?
From what?
It's 19 feet from a new building that was placed on the property recently?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
They replaced the
when
house.
was that?
There was a house there.
Yeah.
And they replaced it. I think it was
On
just
exactly the same footprint?
pretty close,
Okay,
pretty close. It's a different house, so they used a little different figure.
okay.
But it's pretty
So the
close.
variance you're requesting is to go from 40 feet to 19 feet.
Well, actually, I'd like to request that's not the frontage requirement at all. That the frontage requirement is at Beauty Hill Road, not along the easement.
Oh, I get it, yeah.
I don't get it. Go
I
over
don't
that
get
again.
it.
Okay, there's, maybe if I read our regulations.
Okay,
So if you read the regulations, what it says for your frontage, it says the length of a lot line abutting a class 5 highway or other road which a building may lawfully be built. So that would make it Beauty Hill Road, which is what Joel's point is. But we also have another section in here, and this all came about because of having to deal with class 6 and private roads when I worked with the town's attorney about frontage, what was considered a road and what's not considered a road. So if you do lot frontage, and you go to the definition there, for lot frontage, it says the property line dividing a lot from a street's right of way from which a vehicle access is provided to the lot. So 125 is a public right of way. So the town doesn't own it, the state doesn't own it, it's an easement, it's a right of way, it's a right to pass, but it's a public one because it's a public way. This is a private way, so this makes that right of way a private right of way, which means it's a private road if you go by the whole definition section that's all in the RSA when you go through.
You're talking about Beauty Hill Road. You're describing.
No, so I'm
you're
talking his
describing-
driveway, his
The driveway, okay.
that
now I follow.
driveway coming in is on the new lot, is on the lot. So
Right.
technically, they're calling it an easement, but it's still a right of way to get to the other lot. So because it's a right of way to get to the lot, it's a private road by the
Oh,
way
yeah.
our definition works. So because of that, you're supposed to be 40 feet away because of this thing, what it
I
calls
understand it.
the
All right.
edge of the travel way. And then when you go to setbacks, I'm just trying to conform to what our regulation says. So then if you go to setbacks, it says where a yard abuts a street, the setback is the area lying between the abutting streets line of right-of-way line and the furthest projection of any building or structure. So it's a private right-of-way, which makes it a private road. So it's no different than like Baxter, they have to come in when they do something there. Howland
Yeah.
Drive, went right through the middle of the guy's lot, and there was only one house past there, but you still had to do a variance on that because the setback to the house, because that's right-of-way, even though it's only for one house.
Consider
It
a
goes
road.
across someone's property,
Yeah.
it's a private right-of-way, which makes it a private road.
Joel, wouldn't it even look better if you went for a waiver from the 50-foot setback? I mean, they give those all the time, any planning board does. And move that driveway over, not to give it the whole 40 feet. I can see where you might not be stuck,
What do
actually.
you mean,
You
move
could
it
do
over? I can't.
Pardon me?
He's saying go in the buffer to get the 40 foot.
Go in the buffer to get
Oh, then that's a whole DES wetland.
No, it's not. It would just be a waiver.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the wetland buffer, okay.
It is a wetland buffer.
So before we continue, so you're not asking for a variance from 19 feet, you're asking for a
Well,
variance from 0.
I,
And we can't rule on that without publishing that that is what you're requesting,
just say with the 19 feet then, versus the 40.
right? I mean, we have
Yeah,
not
40
duly
required
noticed to
in-
butters. I guess my point is we can't change what the case illustrates.
Right, so right now, 40 is
Okay.
required and he has 19. He has 19 the way
Right.
it's drawn. So what his request is for the 19 feet, and that's what's drawn. And that way he stays out of that 50-foot buffer. So if he gets more so that he gain the 21 feet, then he would go in the wetland buffer, that wetland buffer is supposed to help protect a wetland. He's trying to protect a wetland. It's only for one house going back there, where you still have 19 feet, even though we have to apply it as a road because of our regulations. It's not really a road. It's not like 125 where you got cars driving down the road 60 miles an hour in front of your house that's 19 feet away. No.
Yeah, I understand
I get
that
it, I
part,
get it.
but I just don't, again, I think it would be a much better looking job if you got into the wetland buffer to move the driveway and you could get your 40 feet. Not that I'm stuck on 40 feet, it's just,
It
it's
could have
19
done
feet.
either way, so if I went to the back to ask for a buffer to,
This board can issue that waiver or no?
You have in the past. You
so
have
if
done
I
it
went,
twice already.
Always
I wouldn't know
back
which way to go,
wetland,
so
I mean,
I thought this
A
was a
wetland,
better
it's
way to
just a
go.
setback. It's
It's
just
a
a setback.
wetland buffer.
Right.
You were given relief to the
It's dry
wetland
ground.
buffer twice already on this
Dry
board.
ground.
It's not noticed
I
though,
get it.
so you can't change what the case is at this particular.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Moment.
better way to go because,
Do you,
I think
so
I'd rather
it's
not-
entirely up to you. You're representing the owners. Do
Yeah,
you want to
I
go
personally-
back and have that discussion with them?
no, I stay with the 19 versus the 40 feet. We're asking for a waiver to that front 40-foot setback.
Again, it
Okay.
makes no difference to me. It just, the 19 feet has just gotten that driveway so close to that.
Okay. Why don't we have you read the justification for the variance and all the criteria?
Here it goes. Here we go. Got a bunch of paper here. Sorry. Number one, special conditions exist such that literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant as defined under the applicable law. Several conditions exist that restrain any alternative location of the proposed common driveway easement. Wetlands were delineated and located at the southwestern section of the subject parcel, lot 39. We have designed the common driveway easement so that it is outside of the 50-foot wetland buffer. The dwelling, 190 Beauty Hill Road, is existing. The location of the wetlands and the dwelling unit limits. The location of the wetlands and the dwelling limits in the dwelling limits any, I need a comma there, Joel. In any other location of the proposed easement. Lot 39 is an existing driveway and parking lot. Existing site developments on lot 39 also restricts any other locations or would create similar setback issues. 2, granting the variance would be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. We believe that back in 1972, when the town first adopted zoning ordinance, the front setback of 40 feet was from the frontage of said lot. Frontage of the lot being defined as the length of the lot abutting a class 5 highway or other road upon which buildings will be built. This proposal maintains that 40-foot building setback from the frontage along Beauty Hill Road. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. This proposal is for a 2-lot subdivision of our property, which contains 12.08 acres. Being able to create 2 lots out of the 12 acres is a very modest request. It seems to be a very reasonable proposal. All this variance would not be possible. Granting of the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. Granting this variance would not affect any abutting landowners. The lots that will be affected are also the ones that will benefit as well. Setback relief is to the owner's house, and we see no detrimental effects.
I'm trying to understand hardship as defined under applicable law. So there's currently a business that planning has given conditional approval for them to operate along with a house on the property?
Yes.
And the hardship of not being able to subdivide, can you describe that hardship to me?
Couldn't subdivide, it's 12 acres of land. Seems reasonable that you should be able to subdivide the land into at least 2 lots.
Okay.
Have reasonable use of the land.
And that's reasonable use.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to public comment at this time. Anyone online? I don't see anyone participating but our town planner. We're not popular tonight, I don't know. So I'm going to close public comment. Any other questions, concerns, comments from board members?
Yes, I had a question. In the third 5 criteria.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I don't know how that happened, sorry. It's all live, so as part of the subdivision, getting a variance to the frontage setback is only gonna affect the existing house. It's not gonna be a setback to any budding lots or anything, so it just affects the owners of the property. Sorry,
I'm going to ask the town planner, are we allowed to proceed without that in the packet? Or do we have to table it and include it and take it up next month?
I think I missed a copy.
Since it was addressed by the board member, if you could address number 3 here. You can continue if you would like him to submit a written request, but since he's answered the question,
I'm
That
going to
would
leave
be a
it
board
up to
decision.
the board. So it wasn't publicly noticed with a completed packet that included a response to number 3. Do you choose to continue or?
I don't think it makes any difference.
Okay.
It kind of goes without saying that it doesn't cause diminution to them.
Okay, so then we'll continue. Can I just have you state one more time how this meets criteria 3?
It doesn't affect, it doesn't, it's not detrimental to any abutting properties. The only parcels affected by this variance of the 19 feet and the 40 feet is the owner's property, the owner's house in front there. To any setbacks, to any abutting lots, it's just to the owner's property, their own house.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I don't have,
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the variance in 250-. The applicant has demonstrated that special conditions result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant is defined under applicable law because they're entitled to reasonable use of their property, and without this variance, they and granting the variance of the ordinance not contrary to the public interest because of the only property affected by this variance with the property itself, and granting the variance will not result in the diminution of property values, and the only buildings and right-of-ways affected. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because it allows these to have that their property.
I'll second that motion.
Could I, before we vote on this, would you be willing to amend your motion to include that nothing about an approval shall supersede the conditions of approval that were or may be imposed by the planning board?
Yes.
well said.
So, yeah, so nothing about an approval for this variance shall supersede the conditions of approval that were or may be imposed by the planning board. In other words, that board made decisions in 2016 in reference to this property. Nothing that this board would decide tonight would undo those decisions or any conditional requirements of that. And going forward, our planning board functions independently from the zoning board, and any other conditional approvals would be up to them.
Yes, so I will amend my motion to that nothing granted tonight shall supersede any conditions imposed in the future by the planning.
And would you amend your second on that?
I will
Mrs.
amend my second to that. I think that's a very good idea.
I think that's a helpful approach for all of us. Based on that, could I have a roll call vote?
Samaco, aye.
Hawkins, aye.
Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
Hey, get to bed and get up for my 3 o'clock walk tomorrow. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Take care, Joe.
Up next before us, I can find my agenda, pardon me. Up next before the ZBA is case 226-50-4-NR-23-VAR, owners Darrell and Michelle Kelly, request by the applicant for a variance from Article 3, Section 3.1.6, Site Plan Review Regulations, and Article 19, Commercial Keeping of Farm Animals at 17 Coachman Drive, map 226, lot 50-4, in neighborhood regional zoning. Is that neighborhood residential or regional? So neighborhood residential zoning district. I assume you're Michelle?
I am.
Hi, welcome to the zoning board. We have 4 seated members of this zoning board. Required to decline your application or case or to approve it would take a vote of 3. Where we have 1 empty seat at this time, would you like to proceed?
Well.
Otherwise, you do not have to reapply. We may next month.
I'm sorry.
Next month, we may have an additional board member,
Okay.
but I don't know that for sure. It's in the works.
Well, because unfortunately, I do think that this is going to be there's going to be some opposition to
Okay.
us, which, you know, likely will require probably a lot of good thoughts, maybe perhaps an additional person. Not to say that
No, understood. You're-
from what I hear, you guys have a lot of very, you know, from what I've heard so far, very, very honest, level-headed people here. And
Yeah, you can continue it without having to, till next month, without having to reapply or renotice.
Okay.
And what's next month's date? '25th or 18th? 18th. So it's entirely up to you.
Okay, so October 18th would be
Yes.
the next available date. Honestly, I would prefer that so that my husband can be here with me. You
Okay,
know, he works at TurboCam at,
okay, understood.
this is his shift.
Okay, so
And honestly, I didn't know exactly, you know, how formal you will ask me to like read
all
the
of it,
things
yes.
into it
Yep.
and so forth. Okay, not just what I've written on my application.
No,
Do you want, do you also want examples and photos and things too? Or
So the ZBA is seated as a quasi judicial board, and you can bring whatever evidence you think is appropriate for your case.
Mhm.
You can bring whatever witnesses you think are appropriate for your
Yeah,
case.
one of the witnesses I thought was going to be here, he's not here. so-
Okay. So it's entirely up to you. When we have less than a full quorum, I'm sorry, a fully seated board,
Yes.
your quorum is slightly diminished by 20%. So it's entirely up to you if you would like to table this until next month with no additional cost.
And it's,
to
again,
yourself.
it's not that I don't have.
No,
but, you know,
understood.
the chances are better.
It's
you know.
required of ZBA that we make clear that there's an empty seat at the current moment and allow you that opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. I apologize for
No,
wasting your time this evening.
No, that we don't consider it a waste at all. And we, in the works is hopefully a very well well-equipped, knowledgeable board member, I'm hoping will be here. So,
Very good.
yep. Okay, well, thank
so
you.
much.
Next up, yes,
I just need a
a motion? Sure.
to continue date and time
Yep.
for the application.
Motion to
please.
continue case 226-50-4-NR-23 VAR for owners Daryl and Michelle Kelly. Continued at the request of Michelle Kelly and without prejudice.
A continuation is fine.
Just a
You can say that the
continuation and-
application- or
and-
the applicant requested it.
At the
Board
applicant's
agreement,
request
so.
for next month on October the 18th.
Second that.
Okay, roll call vote.
Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Okay, up next, for your reading pleasure, review and approval of the July 19th, 2023 meeting minutes. Everybody was present, correct? Okay.
I can't remember back that far.
I'm sorry to hear that. Mild cognitive impairment happens to all of us at one time or another.
At one time, I remember there
One
was,
time or another.
One
there was
time or
for like
another.
2 or 3 years in a row, there was like 6 meetings a year because they didn't have how many.
Oh, no kidding. Interesting.
Then you come in later and say, what did we do with that?
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, you
Um,
have the minutes, so. we're
Yep.
good. July 19th minutes. Oh, that's that guy that rescheduled it.
Yeah.
Actually pulled it out.
Yes, yep. Nothing stood out to me. Anyone? Okay, so motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes from July 19th.
And I would second that motion. Roll call vote, please.
Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Any staff updates?
As you all have seen, emails for training opportunities, I think 2 of the board members are going to be able to make it. Paul and Alex said
The
they
one
would
in
make
October we're talking about, right?
October 21st. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best. I think that's important. That's
Yeah. They do a really good job of explaining, and if there's any other questions there, you get lunch involved. So if you have already registered, you can submit your receipt to me and I can get you reimbursed that way. Mileage will also be reimbursed, but that won't be until after the meeting. And then just another plug, even though you all know, the Housing Master Plan chapter, we're having our community meeting update, or not update, excuse me, community meeting on September 30th from 8:30 to 12.
Which is like a charrette, correct? Like people are
Yes,
able
so
to
there's gonna be a
provide their input
presentation,
and
and then
participate.
there's gonna be, say, like activities, there's gonna be rotations. And
How many completed surveys do we have?
at last count, I think it was a little over 300.
Okay, excellent. Okay.
And that's all
Um,
I have, unless there's any other questions.
Do we have we sent the other potential ZBA member an application in the mail?
I was not aware of another ZBA member.
So we had Jackie Flanagan and she asked us
Oh.
to allow her the month of August to, okay. So have we
I will
mailed
follow
her?
up in the mail, because I sent one to her electronic. I'll follow up
Okay,
with her.
yeah, if we can mail one directly to her, that would be great.
Yep.
And I think I will be at Trick or Trunk October 21st, so while you
Lucky.
were all learning. But I will ask that you bring back any changes that we should, as a member that won't be in that training, just here's where we're at and here's what has changed. And I think that would be helpful for all of us to learn from all of you. I think that's it. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn
I
at,
will make that motion. Let's adjourn.
and I second that motion at 7:40. Thank you all.
You want a roll call vote on
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hawkins, aye.
that? Thibodeau, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Good night, Barrington.